Now if you thought just one Jesse Eisenberg could suck all the energy out of a room, there's now two of them! Ah! Based on the novella by Fyodor Dostoevsky and directed by Richard Ayoade, the double stars Jesse Eisenberg, twice, Mia Wasikowska, Wallace Shawn, Noah Taylor, Craig Roberts, Yasmin Page and James Fox, and a host of cameos including Tim Key, Chris O'Dowd, Sally Hawkins, Paddy Considine, Chris Morris and Jay Maskis from Dinosaur Jr. as a janitor. Now there's no other film that can say that. So Jesse Eisenberg stars as Simon James, who works at a sort of nondescript filing company. You never really know what goes on there. He lives a somewhat shallow existence. I mean, he goes to work, does his job, he lusts after a file clerk named Hannah, played by Mia Wasikowska, and he goes home, doesn't really do much with his life, but his life gets turned upside down by the arrival of his exact doppelganger, played by Eisenberg again, James Simon, who's a real charismatic guy, the complete polar opposite of Simon. He's successful with the ladies. He knows exactly how to live life. He's very open, and like I say, the exact opposite of Simon. And he basically kind of takes over his life. Like, he gives him advice on how to kind of woo Hannah, and then in the end he kind of steals her for himself. And it's a really interesting film. Now, Richard Ayoade is a great director. Submarine was an absolutely brilliant film from, I believe, 2010. Absolutely brilliant film. And this follow-up is just as good. Not better, but it is just as good. I mean, a guy like that who's kind of more known for kind of comedy acting, making two films that are as good as this is an absolute achievement. Really like this film. Now, I've read interviews with Ayoade when the interviewers have kind of picked him up on his filmic influences, and a couple of films that come up a lot is Brazil, which I've never actually seen, so I can't really make that comparison, and Eraserhead. Now, he hasn't really taken to these. He feels like he's made a film that doesn't kind of conform to other people's films, and I can understand that, but it really is impossible to ignore. It's very similar. The filmic style is very kind of static. There's not a lot of movement going on, at least not a lot of the time. Everyone walks very stilted like. It's very strange. I mean, it really is impossible to ignore. If you've seen Eraserhead and you see this film, it's impossible not to make that comparison. And I can see why he gets upset. I mean, people kind of make films that they don't want to kind of look like they've kind of stolen parts of other people's films, which, like I say, I can understand completely, but it really is, it is very similar. Now, I'm not usually the biggest fan of Jesse Eisenberg, but he really does a good job in this film. I mean, he has to, even though he is playing two different people, it is obviously the one person playing him, and he has to kind of act the polar opposite. Like I said, Simon James is this really kind of he doesn't know how to kind of talk to people. He's not very lucky with the ladies. He does his job, but he never gets any recognition. Wallace Shawn plays his Mr. Papadopoulos, his boss. Wallace Shawn is really good in this, and James Simon is the complete polar opposite. He's really charismatic. He knows how to kind of woo the ladies. I mean, he manipulates Simon a lot. Like, there's a scene where he makes him kind of take an aptitude test for him, and but the same person plays these two kind of real different characters, and he did it with absolute aplomb. Really good performance in this. One of his better performances, I'll say. But I don't kind of actively see his films because I'm not the biggest fan of his, but I think he did a really good job in this film. I mean, Mia Wasikowska, again, really never fails to kind of impress me. Like, I was a very big fan of the film Stoker she was in last year. She did an amazing performance in that. And in this film, I don't think it is her best kind of performance, but it is. I mean, it serves a purpose. You know, it does the job for the character. But she's really good in this film. And also the sound design as well is very good in this film. There's some scenes where like the soundtrack will be like really booming. There's like lots of kind of sounds come out of nowhere. But there's also times when the soundtrack and the sound design is very much in the background, but kind of lifts the scene up to more than it could have been. It's a very small film, and I'm pretty sure there are actually no scenes that take place kind of during the day. They're all at night, which is very interesting. Like, you can tell that this, like, kind of the apartment block that all these people live in is kind of very small. Like, everyone will kind of know each other. There's also a kind of a well, not really a subplot, but there's a kind of a plot point of someone committing suicide, and it's not explored that much. I mean, when you kind of see the scene, that you think, what's that got to do with anything? But when it comes down to kind of the climax of the film, it all comes together, and you kind of it all links in very, very well, I think. There's a lot of good cameos in this film as well, but the absolute highlight for me was Chris Morris. I mean, he's only in it for literally about 30 seconds, but he makes an impression. I mean, even looking at that guy makes me kind of like smile. And whenever he says anything, whenever anything comes out of his mouth, I'm always laughing. But all I have to do is look at the guy and I start laughing. It's just, I don't know, it's just something about him. There's also one from Tim Key playing kind of his mother's kind of reception to this kind of care home that his mother lives in. It was like really like, yeah, your mother's dead. It's like it's kind of that kind of nondescript, just kind of like not really paying attention to anything. He's not in it a lot, but he's really, really funny as well. And also it contains kind of, I'm pretty sure, every single actor from Submarine, I believe. Even kind of the no, maybe not all of them, but all kind of the main, like Craig Roberts plays a detective, Yasmin Page plays his boss, Mr. Papadopoulos' daughter. Who else? Paddy Considine stars. He's not actually kind of in the film per se, but there's like this kind of really cheap, like rubbish, cheap sci-fi TV show that Simon likes to watch, and it's kind of like, it has shades of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place in there, and also if you see in Submarine, those videos that his character did, that kind of like those real like weird effects and stuff. It's like really, really, really badly acted, but it's really, really funny. Like hopefully those scenes will be on the DVD when it comes out. I really want to see that kind of stuff. But the one thing I really, really loved about this film was it gets the ambiguity exactly right. Now, what I mean by that is, with films like in this ilk, like kind of surreal films, like David Lynch films, like you watch them kind of like over and over and over again, and there's no way to kind of work it out. But this one gets it exactly right. I mean, it does warrant multiple viewings, but it's not too hard to understand, if you know what I mean. Like I say, it could have gone kind of really overboard, and it could be like you could never work out anything in this. But on your first viewing, it warrants, like I say, it warrants multiple viewings enough. But also, if you only see it once, you can kind of understand what goes on, which I really, really liked about the film. It gets the tone exactly right. There's a lot of comedy in this film. The only critique I can give it is some of the humour for me didn't quite hit like I wanted it to. I mean, it's that very much kind of Richard Ayoade kind of acerbic wit, and but like I say, just some of the kind of the jokes kind of fell flat a little bit for me. But that's the only critique I can give of the film, really. The cinematography as well in this film is really, really good. Like I said before, it seems like there's kind of it's small, but it's also big at the same time. It looks like there's no kind of like it's not set in any certain time. It could be kind of years and years in the future, or it could be kind of years and years in the past. There's no kind of descript kind of time frame where it's set, or when it's set, which it really, really works for works kind of the script and the kind of the content of the story. Cinematography, very, very good. But all in all, a terrific film, a very, very good follow-up to Submarine by director Richard Ayoade. I mean, this guy is definitely a talent to watch in the British film industry, and I hope he gets a chance to film maybe one or two American films as well. Amazing cinematography, the sound design was fantastic, the way it was shot was absolutely brilliant. Like I say, if you get what I said about it, if you kind of cross Barbarian Sound Studio with Eraserhead, put it in a blender, this is kind of the kind of film you'll get. Very, very much like this film. Whether it'll be one of the best of the year, I'm not quite sure right now, because there is a lot of good films that's come out in this year. And I'm going to give The Double a 9 out of 10. So thanks for taking the time out to watch this review. More reviews coming in the future, so until then, please rate, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.